Hey friends, my name is Antoinette Chanel and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to give a timeline of Megxit. Not so much for the purpose of informing you, although if that's what you're here for, then welcome. You're more than welcome to stay for that. But really, I want to sort of show the contrast between what the headlines were showing and reporting and how they were written about Harry and Meghan back in 2019, 2020, and the contrast that we are seeing now, because there's been a massive shift in public opinion, as well as what has been agreed about as acceptable topics to cover on these two in the years since Megxit. So let's just jump in. So on January 8th, 2020, the Sussexes announced on their Instagram their plans to step back from royal life. They were going to step back from being senior working royals. The next day, on January 9th, it's reported that Prince William was blindsided by this report, suggesting that maybe Harry and Meghan didn't discuss this with the rest of the royals before making the announcement. January 9th would also be Catherine, Princess of Wales's birthday. The palace made their birthday post about Kate, as usual, like they normally do. January 10th is when we start seeing reports about how Meghan flees to Canada with Archie. Then 3 days later, on January 13th, Prince William and Prince Harry issue a joint statement about their relationship and the fact that this professional separation did not mean that there was a rift between the two. Reportedly, Harry didn't know anything about this statement before it came to light. On January 18th, the palace released a statement explaining that the Queen had come to an agreement with Harry and Meghan about what their role would look like, about what this stepping back would mean, etc. It was after the January 18th meeting that it came out what the concessions were going to be. So Harry and Meghan were going to have to give up their titles. They were going to have to pay back the taxpayer money that was used for renovating Frogmore Cottage. And I'm sure there are also other details in there, but those were the two most pertinent ones that stood out to me in that whole meeting and that outcome of that meeting. On January 19th, Harry gives a statement about what his role would look like, what this whole transition would mean, etc. Sort of like a follow-up to the statement that the Queen released, or that the palace released on behalf of the Queen. It was also specified that this whole stepping back arrangement was going to be temporary and would be re-evaluated after 1 year. On February 22nd of 2020, we found out that Harry and Meghan will not be allowed to use the term royal in all of their dealings and engagements post-Megxit after they leave the family. And Harry and Meghan also followed this up with their own statement, sort of clarifying what their interpretation of this is to mean. On March 3rd, 2020, Harry and the Queen decide to have a heart-to-heart meeting to discuss what the future is going to look like for he and his wife and for his son, Archie. And it was at this meeting that the Queen let Harry know that he would always be welcome back, that she always loved him, that, you know, he's family, that really nice message that all of us hope to get from our grandmothers at some point. And then 6 days after this, on March 9th, 2020, Harry and Meghan attended Commonwealth Day. This was where Meghan wore that green dress that I guess was part of her rainbow attire that she was wearing during her final weeks as a working royal. But it was at this event that they were excluded from participating in the royal procession. And what's interesting to note is that Harry and Meghan were excluded, but also Catherine and William were excluded too. This might have been a reflection of that slimmed down version of the monarchy that I know that at the time he was Prince Charles, he's now King Charles, but I know he was advocating for that a lot. And I know that because I'm almost finished. I've been listening to Valentine Lowe's Courtiers book, and that book has taught me so much about the royals, all of them. Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, Prince Charles when he was Prince Charles, Prince Andrew, also Catherine William, and Meghan and Harry. But that's spoilers. I'll actually be covering Courtiers in its own series on this channel, so please make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss that, because like I said, it was eye-opening to me to learn so much about Harry and Meghan through that book, as well as just learning about all of the royals. I learned a lot. As far as I can tell, it sort of seems like this whole Commonwealth Day, whatever it was, this was a perceived slight that only furthered the actions that Harry and Meghan would take after Megxit. On March 15th of 2020, Harry released a statement in which he says that he believes that Archie has been abandoned, suggesting that Archie, his son, has somehow been rejected by his grandmother, his father, his in-laws, his brother, rejected and abandoned. On March 25th, 2020, Meghan gave a statement where she stated that the families were communicating pretty regularly. She felt that the pandemic was bringing them closer. And the following day, on March 26th, 2020, we found out that Meghan had been hired to narrate the Disney nature film Elephants. Elephants or Elephant? But it was the Elephant movie. She was the narrator for that. And then the next day after that, we get a statement about them moving to Los Angeles. In July of 2020, we got a headline that said that the Sussexes had purchased a mansion in Montecito. And forgive me, I'm gonna mess up the chronology on this, but it was around the same time that we found out about the Montecito home that we were also being informed of all of the major lucrative deals that these two had signed. So this would be the Spotify deal as well as the Netflix deal. And it also must have included the book deal too. So Penguin must have been included in that as well, though I don't remember seeing a headline about the book or the book deal, not as much as I was seeing the Spotify stuff in the news and the Netflix stuff in the news. And then from July 2020, it was mainly quiet. I mean, there were a few things that we heard about with like Meghan's 40th birthday, and I think we got an announcement about Harry joining Better Up and that partnership forming. But for the most part, we didn't get a lot from the Sussexes in the last half of 2020. Oh boy, but we got a lot of stuff from them in 2021. Okay, so February 2021, Buckingham Palace announces that Harry and Meghan will not be returning. So that open space that was left for them as senior working royals, that is now closing, or at least that's how I interpreted that at the time. And this is the part that I kind of forgot about, or maybe I just wasn't fully aware of as it was happening. Valentine Lowe released his report about Meghan bullying staff at the palace before the Oprah interview dropped. So I think the Oprah interview went live like March 6th or March 8th of 2021. It was early March. Valentine Lowe's story hit just a couple of days before that. And I don't know if people recognize that fully, that he actually beat them to the punch with this story. And looking back on that now, that was hugely strategic. I'm sure that there was a big hustle to get that done, but he's a British journalist and he accomplished it. But the way that that went in terms of the timeline, the story about Meghan bullying staff came out first, then the Oprah interview. The Oprah interview has since been scrubbed from the internet. You'd be hard pressed to find it in its entirety anywhere. The most that I'm able to locate are some chopped up clips of it elsewhere. And those clips are usually very low quality in terms of picture or sound or both. It's very clear that whoever has footage of this and is putting parts of it onto the internet, they are doing so in a way that they can disguise it somewhat so that it doesn't get picked up and flagged for copyright for some reason. Well, I say for some reason. We know the reason. I mean, there's plenty of reasons that Oprah has for not wanting that interview to see the light of day. There are also plenty of reasons, I'm sure, that Harry and Meghan have for not wanting that interview to see the light of day. But this video is not about the Oprah interview. If you want an analysis of that, I'm happy to do that, but I'm going to keep moving on because we're just looking at the timeline of all of this Megxit stuff right now. In April of 2021, Prince Philip passed away. And to me, as someone who is a bit of an outsider on British life and British customs, this to me seemed like the real point of no return for Harry and Meghan, because the Oprah interview was bad enough by itself, but the fact that this was raging on at a time when Prince Philip wasn't doing well, when the family was being very attentive to him because they knew that they were probably going to have to say goodbye to him soon. I looked it up and he died at age 99. While Harry's family is preparing to say goodbye to one of its oldest members, the fallout of all of this Oprah stuff is raging on in the news. And it just kind of seemed like there could have been a more concerted effort to maybe stop that if these two had any sort of remorse about the timing, about Prince Philip, about how the family would receive it, about any of that. But I didn't really see a whole lot of remorse in the days after the Oprah interview. In fact, Harry even went on to state in another interview later, I think it was on ITV, that Meghan never said that the British family was racist or that anybody in the palace was racist, that the British press is who was racist, which was a complete gaslight to everyone who's been following along. And sometime also in early 2021, Time magazine celebrated Harry and Meghan as being people who championed for the little guy. They gave a voice to the voiceless, I think was the quote that they had. And so in all of this, I just want to take a minute to point out how even as we were hearing reports of Meghan's behavior, as we were sort of seeing that there was clearly some sort of public rift happening between this family, most of the reporting on H&M has been pretty lukewarm to positive. I mean, they always get features, they always get glowing headlines from People magazine. Not that that's a reputable publication, but it's still a headline. And there's always somebody famous who's willing to say something somewhat kind about them. So Ellen DeGeneres, even though Ellen seemed to, I think that Ellen was mocking Meghan when she invited Meghan onto her show and sort of made her act a fool and had her do all of these like humiliating acts. I think that that was just kind of her poking fun because she could. She figured, hey, I've got this Duchess on my show and she's willing to do anything, so let me just have her do anything. Tyler Perry pops up every now and then. Mindy, she likes to pull Mindy Kaling out every now and then to, you know, vouch for her, and she has over the years. But overall, we didn't see the warm reception that you would anticipate for two royals to have in Hollywood. Most people were probably curious about them when they first arrived in California. Harry and Meghan were probably getting invites to everything at first, and then it seems like those slowly dwindled because we started hearing from fewer and fewer people who were willing to vouch for them, willing to say that, yeah, these are my friends and I hang out with them, willing to be pictured with them even. In fact, many of the friends that Meghan claimed to have when we first met her have since come out with negative things to say about her in the press. And that was something that was unheard of, like in the first few years of this relationship. It was very, very difficult to be critical of Harry and Meghan in the beginning. And I would say that Bethany Frankel is somebody who's very familiar with that. Piers Morgan is very familiar with that, and others. But now the climate is of such that people seem to be taking jabs left and right at them. I see people making public statements that are very critical of Harry and Meghan, and all of that is warranted. It's always been warranted. But the shift, though, it was a gradual one. It's not like people just automatically figured, what's wrong with these two after Megxit? We were all sort of brought along on this ride of sympathy that I think a lot of people were just happily riding along on until the Oprah interview happened. The Oprah interview raised a lot of red flags for most people just because the claims that were being made, the accusations without any real tangible proof, the lack of naming people, like not saying any specific names whatsoever and just kind of doing the whole coy look to the side and make a face sort of a thing. You know, I think the public at that point was like, well, if this is really a problem, then show us the proof. You have no proof? Then what are we here for? Okay, my friends, that's all I have on this topic for now. But like I said to you, please do stay tuned to this channel because I'm planning to break down everything I learned about the royals, specifically Harry and Meghan, from Valentine Lowe's book, Courtiers. I also do plan to watch the Netflix series when it comes out, which it's now been postponed to March. I've heard that it was postponed because of the wildfires and Netflix's desire to not seem insensitive by releasing this fancy cooking show that's based in Southern California at a time when Southern California is in crisis. But we don't know for sure. Honestly, I think that the reception to the trailer might have been part of the reason why they wanted to delay this project to maybe give the public a better impression of her. I'm not sure, but either way, we're gonna have to wait till March for that to come out, and I will definitely be checking it out. If you'd like to keep up with me, you can through my Instagram. That handle is listed on screen right now. And like I said, please do make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. Give the video a like if you liked this video, and I will be talking to you again very soon, my friends. Take care.